What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Lil Trady back with another video. And look, I know a lot of people are gonna be annoyed about what I'm gonna be talking about today, as y'all can see from the title. But this is gonna be the only time. Well, unless they fold in the playoffs again. But today, I'm gonna be talking about the frauds, the biggest frauds of the 2022 NBA season. The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns. Look, the Phoenix Suns, they've been having a great year, but they just lost 5 games in a row. They lost to the Pelicans twice in a row, and Zion Williamson did that windmill 360 dunk, and they deserved it. Yeah, the Suns deserved that, because the Suns thought they were sweet, posting those goofy workout videos before the game, and y'all thought y'all was that good? Hell no. That's why Luka cooked y'all, and that's why Giannis cooked y'all in the finals. Now look where y'all are right now. Still ringless. And no disrespect to Chris Paul, one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest point guards of all time, but I feel bad for you, bro. For real. But before I get started with this video, make sure y'all like, subscribe to my channel, hit that bell for notifications, make sure y'all follow me on Instagram. My link is down below in the description box. Without further ado, let's get back to these fraud-ass Phoenix Suns. And I cannot stand the Suns. And nobody else out there can stand the Phoenix Suns neither. I'm not the only one. Everybody out there in the NBA community can't stand the Phoenix Suns. Because the Phoenix Suns, man, they let us down for the last 2 years. For the last 2 years. They got to the finals in their first year with Chris Paul, but they came up short against the Milwaukee Bucks, blowing the 2-0 lead, and Chris Paul having that one bad game, and Devin Booker putting up some stinkers that nobody talks about. And then the next year, they had the best record, not only in the West, but in the entire NBA. Won 64 games, had the #1 seed, obviously. But when we get to the playoffs, matter of fact, before we get to the playoffs, let's see what the Phoenix Suns did in the regular season. Devin Booker and Chris Paul both had all-star caliber years, especially Chris Paul at 37 years old, still giving you elite play, and Devin Booker looking like the quote-unquote MVP candidate. But Devin Booker, he was look like an MVP candidate. I ain't gonna hate. But let's get to the postseason, and that's where it all went downhill. Because in the first round against New Orleans Pelicans, who are the 8th seed, by the way, and were missing their star player in Zion Williamson, and they barely beat the Pelicans as they went to 6 games. And granted, D-Book did miss a couple of games with a hamstring injury, but what's the excuse for the Phoenix Suns still? Like, let's be real. Because in game 1, they were kind of slacking, let's be real. Because the Pelicans were kind of coming back on them. But Chris Paul decided to go point guard mode and save the Phoenix Suns. And then in game 2, D-Book was going off in the first half until he got hurt. And then Ingram just cooked them throughout the entire game. And then Chris Paul, he had an amazing series, especially in the closeout game where he shot 100% from the field and had 33 points. Just cooked that defense. Even though the Pelicans defense is not that great, but that's still impressive. And the Suns, sure, they got away with a 6-game win over the Pelicans. Let's look what happened in the second round against the Dallas Mavericks. Beating up 2-0 yet again. And then ever since Chris Paul turned 37 years old, that man has been straight garbage, bro. Like Chris Paul wasn't the same since he's turned 37 years old. Because after that man's birthday, bro, he was so trash. Like, he was averaging under 10 points a game. He was turning the ball over at a historic level. I believe in the first, was it game 3 and game 4? He had like 5 turnovers in game 3 and 6 in game 4. Correct me down in the comment section. But Chris Paul, man, he was turning the ball over, bro. And that's uncharacteristic from Chris Paul, because he's known as the point guy who rarely turns the ball over. But the way he was turning that ball over, bro, it was just insane. Like, for real, it was insane. And then he didn't regress from the mid-range, obviously, But Chris Paul, bro, he just forgot how to play basketball. Like, that man was not aggressive. And I'm starting to agree with Isaiah Thomas about his points about Chris Paul. Because Chris Paul, he do be playing safe at times. And it do be costing his team a lot. Like, for real. When Chris Paul plays a little bit too safe, it do be costing his team. He's rarely aggressive. And sure, he's a great passer and all. He like to get his teammates involved. But most players do not win the championship as like a primary playmaker. As I can give you a perfect example. Steve Nash was one of those guys. I don't think you could win with Steve Nash as your best player on the championship team. Because the guy's defense was so bad. He wasn't that aggressive. And he literally used the same play style over and over again. That's why the San Antonio Spurs kept whooping his ass. Because he kept using the same play style. And it's not just on Steve Nash. Mike D'Antoni also shares some blame as well. And also Monty Williams as well. I don't think Monty Williams ain't off the hook neither. But Chris Paul, he be playing way safe. And I forgot to mention John Stockton. He also plays safe as well. And guess where it left him? Ringless. And guess where Chris Paul is right now? Ringless. And the only player to ever do that, like to ever be like a primary playmaker and be ball dominant as it, is Magic Johnson. You can say what you want about him having Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and James Worthy, but Magic, he still did it. But Magic is an anomaly, so I'm not really gonna like compare him to Chris Paul or nothing. But Chris Paul, man, sure, Chris Paul is an all-time great player, but Chris Paul, man, he just plays way too safe. And this year, he's just copy and pasting what he did in the playoffs last year. Because Chris Paul, man, he has been so garbage this year, averaging under 10 points a game. Ooh, that man is averaging under 10 points a game, and he's shooting like garbage. He's shooting below 40% from the field, and he just got his feelings hurt by Jose Alvarado that they nearly squared up. The whole entire team looked like they was about to square up. So yeah, Chris Paul, man, he has not been the same ever since his birthday. But you also know who's been getting off the hook lately? DeAndre Ayton. Now look, DeAndre Ayton, he's an amazing player and all, but Ayton, bro, quit acting like you're a superstar, because you're not. You're not even a top 25 player in this league. And people are just gasping you up, thinking you're worth a max contract. And you're for sure as hell not worth a max contract. Look, I respect your game and all, but you kind of do benefit a lot on Chris Paul. Because let's not forget, Chris Paul made DeAndre Jordan an all-NBA performer. First team, by the way. And now he's doing it with DeAndre Ayton. And sure, Ayton didn't make an all-NBA team yet, but he could probably make an all-NBA team. But I don't think that probably wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for Chris Paul. And sure, DeAndre Ayton got his own little moves, especially in the post. He got that post hook, and we all know what he did against the Lakers. But DeAndre Ayton, bro, he really benefits his game more with Chris Paul because of the pick and rolls he be doing with him. And sometimes Ayton can shoot too. Let's not forget about that neither. Ayton can shoot as well. So DeAndre Ayton, look, he's a great player and all, but he is not worth the max contract. And it looks like he does not want to be there, bro. Like, for real. Y'all seen that man's interview in Media Day. That man looked bummed. That man looked like he was about to cry. It looked like he was just so sad. It looked like he didn't want to be there. And then we all know about that altercation that he had with Monty Williams. Sure, it wasn't on camera. And they said they haven't talked ever since that Game 7 blowout. Yeah, it looks like DeAndre Ayton does not want to be there anymore. And you should just sign on with the Pacers, bro. But hey, that was your decision. But now let's get to their star player. And that's Devin Armani Booker. Now look, Devin Booker, he's an amazing player. But not gonna lie, Devin Booker has been getting heavily overrated. I mean, heavily overrated. I don't think he's overrated this year, but last year he was immensely overrated. Because people were calling this man a top 10 player in the league. People were calling him better than Tatum. People were saying he's on the same level as Luka. And let me tell y'all something. This man's tier, he is closer to Donovan Mitchell and Bradley Beal than he is to Tatum, Luka, and Embiid. Like, what's the biggest gap between Devin Booker and Bradley Beal? What's the biggest gap between him and D. Mitch? It's not that big of a gap. You could argue D. Mitch is better than D. Book. He's playing better than him this year. You know what's crazy, bro? You know what really pisses me off? Everybody shits on Chris Paul for all the Suns' failures in the past 2 years in the playoffs. But nobody gets on D-Book for these shitty-ass performances that he be throwing up. Especially last year in the last 2 games, where he shot a combined 8 of 41, I believe. And he was turning the ball over at a historic level. He had the worst box plus minus out of both teams. I believe he was a minus 41 in the game 7 where they got their ass kicked. And people don't even bring up his finals performances. Everybody shits on Chris Paul for that one bad game that he had in game 4. But nobody gets on D-Book for those shit-stained ass performances that he was throwing up, especially in the closeout game where he shot like 8 of 22, 0 of 7 from 3, and also had 6 turnovers. And people still blame Chris Paul for all that shit. And it really annoys me that people just want to put all the blame, a whole accountability on a 37-year-old Chris Paul. Sure, Chris Paul deserves his blame because Chris Paul was very bad last year. But D-Book deserves his own blame as well. If y'all think he's that guy, if y'all think he is the reincarnation of the late, great Kobe Bryant, then hold on to those same exact standards. Quit making excuses and not holding them accountable. It's so annoying, bro. Hold that man accountable, bro. Just like how you hold Chris Paul accountable. And that man is 37 years old. And I bet if Chris Paul throws up another stinker, bro, people are going to be all over that man. All over him. Especially the fans. Fans shit on him enough. They're going to give this man D-Book a pass for his terrible performances. The stinkers that he's going to be throwing up. And I'm going to hear nobody talk about that. Not even one person. When the Suns lost the finals, all I heard was
Chris Paul this, Chris Paul that, Chris Paul choked, Chris Paul sold.
That's all I heard when the Suns lost in the NBA Finals. But D-Book got a pass for putting up multiple stinkers in multiple games. Especially in the closeout game where they could have went back home for a game 7, but D-Book decided to play like trash. So yeah, the Phoenix Suns, man, I had enough of this team. I'm not going to fall for it again. I'll make sure all y'all don't fall for this shit neither, because we seen this shit before. I don't care if the Phoenix Suns win the next 60 games. I don't care. Prove it in the postseason, and we'll have a real conversation about this. But as of right now, Devin Booker is not a superstar. Chris Paul is washed, and the Phoenix Suns are no more. But that concludes this video. What y'all think? Hit that like button. Make sure y'all subscribe to my channel. This your boy Lil Trady signing out. Peace.